From SF Land, this is Dorking Out, a podcast for people who love to dork out about movies, TV, and everything pop culture.
Welcome to Dorking Out. My name is Sonia Mansfield, and I'm not going to be ignored, Dan. Joining me is my podcasting sister from another mister and the co-host of Dorking Out, Margo D. Hello, my friend.
Hey, friend. I just want to assure everyone, no rabbits are harmed during this podcast.
Phew! If you guys don't know, we're talking about 1987's Fatal Attraction. And
I feel like the psycho music needs to be playing here.
No, unfairly played. In case you guys don't know what Fatal Attraction is, I don't know why you're listening, but 1987 Fatal Attraction starring Michael Douglas, Glenn Close, and Anne Archer. It was written by James Dearden based on a 1980 British short film called Diversion and directed by Adrian Lyne, I think, or Line. And he also did Flashdance, which if you haven't heard our Flashdance episode, do yourself a favor and go back and find our Flashdance one because it's a really good episode. And 9.5 Weeks, which we should probably put that one on the list.
Absolutely.
And then Jacob's Ladder after Fatal Attraction, which is fucking creepy as hell. Indecent Proposal, Lolita, Unfaithful, things like that. You might sense a trend in quite a few of these movies. He's like sexy movie guy. Except for
skeevy movie guy.
Yeah, except for Jacob's Ladder. Jacob's Ladder there's nothing sexy about that one. And this movie was bananas huge. It was massive. Like everyone talked about Fatal Attraction. It was on the cover of like every magazine. It was like the buzziest movie. Did you see it in the theater, Margo? Or did you wait for video?
No, I had to see it in the theater because everyone was talking about it. And the big things were Glenn Close was sexy, which she wasn't before this.
Right.
She was more of an Earth Mother type. And also, supposedly, all of these marriages were saved because of this movie, which is the headline I hate the fucking most.
Yes. Like,
really? You have to watch a movie about a fake couple to not cheat on your spouse? But okay.
I read that too. The multiple like men who come up to Glenn Close and they're like, your movie saved my marriage. And I was like, that's fucking gross.
Yeah.
That's gross. I needed to think that maybe my mistress might try to kill me to keep me from cheating. I'm like, are you bragging? I don't understand. Anyway, it's gross.
Yeah.
The movie also spawned like a million knockoffs. So we got like The Crush and Swim Fan and Obsessed. And I would put like Single White Female.
Oh, yeah. That we should definitely talk about the movie someday.
That was kind of this kind of movie. The term bunny boiler became a thing. And this is pretty crazy. Nominated for 6 Academy Awards.
Which is insane to think about now.
Yeah. But
it was so prevalent in the culture at the time.
Right.
In 1987, everybody talked about this movie. It was just, and it got amazing reviews. I mean, it was reviewed very well. And the whole thing was, it's very sexy, but it's scary. And it's this whole morality play. And it's a couple of those things, maybe, but not really.
I think it's crazy that a movie that's basically, it's just a thriller. And like the idea that a thriller would be nominated for Best Picture, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actress is pretty crazy to me. But it really like hit at the right time because there was, you look up like, why was Fatal Attraction so popular? And it'll be like, because the movie represented all these different things to different people. So it was like, this movie is about, because in case you guys don't know, the movie's about Michael Douglas married to like super hot Anne Archer. For
Holy
some reason,
shit, Anne Archer.
Yeah, still for some reason.
Take a second.
Yeah, she's super beautiful. Happily married, by the way. They seem to have a very lovely relationship. Adorable
relationship.
Adorable daughter. Cheats on some woman. Cheats on her with a woman he met at work, played by Glenn Close. And you and I talked about this a little bit offline. I think Glenn Close in this movie is like an all-timer like performance. Like she's amazing. And we talked about this a little bit when we talked about Meg Ryan and When Harry Met Sally, kind of the performance that like stands the test of time. It's like the bar in which we measure all other types of performances. So like every like romantic comedy performance is kind of measured against Meg Ryan and When Harry Met Sally because she's so amazing. I think Glenn Close is like that in Fatal Attraction. And I think that's the thing that still works in this movie, but it's okay. So Michael Douglas, happily married, super beautiful wife, cute kid, decides to throw it all away, cheat on his wife. And the movie, like I said, it works for all these different people, right? So it's like, this is a movie that's about like the consequences of cheating, or it's representative of what AIDS was like in the culture, or this is about career woman versus stay-at-home moms. Like it was all this different stuff. So it like clicked with all these different people on different levels, I think. And it made $1 bazillion and it was an international sensation. What did like 16-year-old Margo think of Fatal Attraction when she saw it?
The thing that got to me, and I say this, I mean, Ann Archer is I think, and she was nominated for an Oscar and she should have been, because this is a thankless part that she's given. For sure.
This is the kind of part that like Laura Linney plays now all the time, FYI.
Yeah. Well, we're supposed to, I mean, first of all, the very first time we meet her, she's like in a white t-shirt and her underwear and she's brushing her teeth. And I look like that. I've never been that hot as her in a white t-shirt brushing my teeth. Like, she's smoking hot. He's got this apartment on the Upper West Side, which is like a cool place in New York. Beautiful, cute kid, a cute dog. Jane Krakowski is his babysitter. Yeah, did you notice that?
I did notice that. I'm like, I wouldn't leave my kid with her.
Exactly.
That's Jenna from 30 Rock. What are you thinking?
Also from the Vacation movies.
I know.
You know about French kissing?
Yes.
My daddy says I do it the best. But anyway, which is the best line in that movie. It's disgusting, but it makes me laugh every time. But he has a perfect life. So he's a lawyer. And he works with publishing houses. And here's the thing, like, I worked in book publishing. So, I mean, later on, it was like and at that time, I was a teenager living in California. I'm like, I want to move back to New York. I want to live in New York. I want to be a New Yorker. Like, that book party seems like everything cool. And he's Glenn Close, and it's because his doofus friend is hitting on her. And it's Stuart Pankin.
Yeah.
And the clumsiest of clumsy, come-ons. He's there with his wife, by the way.
Yeah, gross.
And it's gross. And Glenn Close is just giving a shitty look, like, fuck you. And we're
as she
all
should.
meant to be like, as she should, as any woman should. And we're all meant to, and then she gives him a scathing look. And then Michael Douglas goes up to her and goes, deep down, we're all insecure. And we don't know what to say. And it's like, your friend's fucking married to a woman I think you like. You should be mad at him for like coming on to this woman at a party. But I did, at the time, I was young and I didn't get all that. And I'm embarrassed to say, when I was young, I was like, oh, wow, she's crazy. He needs to get rid of her. This movie needs to get rid of this woman. I mean, I feel bad that she's pregnant, but they need to get rid of her. And they just get rid of her. And the adult me now that's close to the age of Alex, maybe a little older, is like, holy shit, this woman just never gets a fair shake from anybody.
That was the same reaction I had watching it.
Yeah.
I hadn't rewatched this in a long time. And,
years.
Yeah. And so 16-year-old Sonia was like, oh, she's batshit insane. And I'm sure like the end terrified me and was like, one of the people that was like, woohoo, when like his wife shoots her at the end. Spoilers for Fatal Attraction. I was one of those people. And then watching it now, I'm like, this movie's fucked up. Like, first of all, she has a mental illness that is never addressed in this movie.
She needs help.
Yeah. But the movie doesn't really explore that, right? It's just like, dude, she wants Michael Douglas's penis so bad that she's insane. Like, she's insane for penis. She's cuckoo for penises. Like, that's what the movie is saying.
Well, her clock is ticking, Sonia. Come on. That's what happens to all of us when our clocks are ticking.
Yeah. So that's one of the other things that's so interesting. So this movie came out around the same time that there was this big news story, right? The idea that statistically women over 40 were more likely to be killed by a terrorist than be married, right? So,
Right.
and Alex is 36. So when she says like, this is maybe my last chance to have a baby or whatever, there's a reason why she says that at 36, which by the way, now at 36, people are like, you got 5 more years at least. Like, it's totally normal. And I'm speaking as someone who had a kid at 40. Like, it's 36 doesn't seem that old. But at the time, it seemed older. And there was this general consensus that like women over 35 basically were like, oh, you're never going to get married. It's just not going to happen for you. And so that desperation is on display in this movie.
It's also just like, unless you get married and have a kid, or just have a kid, you can get divorced, but have a kid, you're not complete.
Yes.
You're not a human. You're not a full human. So the fact that she's a successful editor and good looking and smart and can support herself, all those things, they're not important enough unless, she has a kid.
Yeah.
Unless she gets a guy. And, Alex is nuts. Let's be clear. She needs help.
She has like she has some sort of mental disorder. And that's one of the things that when you go back and do some reading on the movie, like Glenn Close is like, we didn't do justice to this character. Like,
right. And Glenn Close was like, she always played mother figures before this. And, what's the movie I'm thinking of with Kevin Kline?
The Big Chill.
The Big Chill. And she was with, the one with Robin Williams where she played his mother.
Shit. I know exactly what
I know. Sorry,
God
guys. Just screaming the title. It'll hit me in a second. I should have written this down. But she was playing mother types or earth mother types that we were talking about off the air. And so this was her first sexy role. And she was just like the world according to Garp.
Yes, thank you. God damn it.
Sorry. God damn it. I had to say it or it was going to kill me.
No, same. I was like so annoyed with myself.
I was so pissed at myself. Okay. So this was her first sexy part. And then she does Dangerous Liaisons a year later. But this was her first time showing her sexuality and being out there with it. And it was like the sex scenes were considered super hot at the time. And you don't get these now. I mean, there's no movie now, right?
I mean maybe like a 50 Shades of Grey or something, but I don't watch those. So I have to, I'm guessing, by the way. I haven't
Nor do
seen
I.
those.
And so it was a big deal, like the sex scenes. And they meet at this party. And then what happens? So the next day, his wife wants to move to Connecticut or Westchester. I forget which one. But she wants to live in the suburbs. She's done. She's done with New York City. And she leaves for the weekend. And he has a Saturday morning meeting. And Alex turns out to be the editor of the book that he's working on. He's supposed to represent in case there's any legal problems. They have that meet cute. They go to lunch, and the next thing you know, they're boinking each other.
Yeah.
In her apartment,
in her kitchen sink.
In her kitchen sink, which is a big deal at the time. It was like the laughs that went with that. And then they go dancing, and then they go back to her apartment and have sex some more. And then he goes back home because he has a dog that he has to feed, by the way, and take care of. That was his only responsibility.
And he couldn't even do that.
Oh my God. Dan is such an asshole.
He's such an asshole. And
I like Michael Douglas, but no.
He's such an asshole. And I think the movie doesn't really think he's an asshole. I think the movie's kind of on his side. Not only does he...
totally in the bag for him.
Yeah, he doesn't take care of the dog. And then eventually he does go home. He gets the dog, and then he brings the dog over to Alex's place. And I wrote in my notes, I'd be even more pissed at this point. Like, if I was his wife. Like, you brought the fucking dog over there? How dare you bring the dog over to your mistress's house? It would make me so mad.
It's one thing, you got drunk at a party.
Yeah.
And something happened. I mean, it's not okay, but that's one thing. But you went back to her house and you brought the fucking dog.
Yeah.
Because that way you wouldn't have to worry about feeding him and taking him for a walk because he's there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad you didn't bring her to our place to do it, but fuck you, man.
Yeah. And well, then, like,
yeah.
on top of, like, so he goes back, like, she makes him dinner and he hangs out and she says, like, I really like you. I want to keep seeing you. And he says to her, like, well, that's not going to happen because I'm married or whatever. But then he sleeps with her again anyway. And I'm like, okay, like,
double messages.
Dude, mixed message. Mixed message. Like, you said one thing, but you did something else. Like,
right.
Yeah. But,
well, he told her he was married right away.
Yeah.
And he was ostensibly happily married.
In theory.
He had no.
Yeah. It seemed like it was.
Yeah, I mean, she was gone less than 24 hours that she was gone. That he's boinking this lady.
She can't leave for 24 hours without him, like, cheating on her.
Right.
What a piece of shit.
And that's never really resolved, really. I mean,
no.
she kicks it. Oh, well, we'll get to that, but she kicks him out, but whatever. So Alex starts calling him. And this is also a product of the time. There's no cell phones. I mean, nowadays she'd be texting him and stuff like that. But she's calling him at work all the time, and he's just trying to blow her off. And then they're going to buy this house in Connecticut or Westchester, whichever it is. And then she shows up at his office, and then they see each other at a subway platform. And that's when she tells him that she's pregnant. And he's super pissed off. And okay, that's a reaction. Yeah, it wasn't what you were expecting. But at some point, you're the father of that baby.
Yeah.
Like, where's your responsibility here? And at another point in the movie, because she is crazy. This is when she's calling all the time.
Yeah.
She's not getting the hint. He's basically saying, you're on your own. That it was fun, but goodbye. And he's still having fun with his friends, and he's still living his life. And then he goes to her apartment, and that's when we have the famous scene where she says, I'm pregnant. He goes, well, that's your choice.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it is, but it's also your kid too.
Yeah.
It's not just her. Like, you have to, like, now talk to your wife and talk about this. And he starts to beat her, starts to slap her. And the way they treat Glenn Close in this movie makes me crazy. Like, she's never wearing a bra. She's never, I mean, she's so obsessed with Dan. And it's like, wouldn't she be just happy just to be pregnant? If he's being a dick, she has enough money.
Right.
She can take care of herself, but she's sick. She needs help.
Yeah, she definitely does. And there's that stuff all frustrates me. And it also, the idea of the movie that this is somehow like, this is every cheating man's worst nightmare. I'm like,
that's it.
I was like, shut up, and I think this is like every like wife's nightmare, right? That your husband cheats and then and that the person that he cheats with becomes fucking batshit insane and starts threatening your life and kidnaps your kid and kills your pet. I'm like, fuck him.
Yeah, his feelings and his worries are like what we're all supposed to be obsessed with. And in this movie, I'm like, I like Anne so much, or his wife so much, that I'm just like, Beth Gallagher, I'm just like, why are you fucking on her? Why don't you be honest with her? Why don't you, doesn't.
And some of this escalates because his inability to be honest with his wife about what happened. So it just keeps dragging on with like Glenn Close getting like more and more crazy and she's hanging it over him, right? Like, I'm going to tell your wife. I'm going to tell your wife. I'm going to tell your wife. And she's ramping up her crazy, and I'm going to tell your wife. And it's like, if this dude, first of all, he shouldn't have been cheating, but he did cheat. So if he would just be on like, hey, like, she's threatening to kill herself and she's doing this and I fucked up. But he doesn't, right? So it just gets, so she just gets crazier and crazier, and he doesn't confess until like she breaks into his house and kills a pet.
They move to the suburbs, and this is where Alex really just kind of, at one point she throws acid on his car and gets away with it. She's standing around when it's happening. Like, there's no cameras or nothing. Okay.
Well, they basically, I mean, Carrie Underwood basically writes songs about shit like that now. That ain't no thing.
It ain't no thing. And then, so they move to this new house, and Alex finds out that they're moving there. And so Alex shows up at the kids' school and is able to pick up their child ahead of her mother and takes her driving around. And that's meant just to scare Beth.
Right.
And just to let him know, oh, I'm really, really crazy. And there's a whole scene where he's in the car and he's listening to a tape on the way to his house. I remember in the movie theater, people freaking out. But she takes the pet of the child that she has no problem with and kills it, throws it into the water. But it's like this real subtle imagery. The rabbit died. And if you don't know what that means, they used to test people for pregnancy. You would inject a rabbit with something or other. And if the rabbit died, you were pregnant. I'm not a doctor, but it used to be a thing. Like people say the rabbit died and that meant you were pregnant.
Right.
And so it's not this subtle imagery, but nowadays it's super upsetting. And I forgot about that bunny shit. And I'm like, oh my God, that rabbit's in the water right now.
It's such a fucked up thing.
It's so fucked up and wrong. And at the same time, Beth thinks her daughter's been kidnapped, and she has been, by the way. So Beth is driving around, and then Beth is so freaked out, she gets in a car accident, and she winds up in the hospital. And, in the scene before, Michael Douglas admitted what he did, and she threw him out.
Yeah.
So he's staying at a hotel for like one night, maybe?
That scene is actually really, really heartbreaking. Like the idea that, I mean, she thinks she's in a really good marriage. Like she thinks they have a happy family. She's completely blindsided by what he's done. And I'm like, that's a fucking nightmare.
Right.
Like for her, like this movie could be told a totally different way from Anne Archer's character's point of view. And I was like, it's really sad. You think everything's great. And it's like, no, it turns out actually I can't keep it in my pants. And
you're beautiful and thin and sweet and gorgeous, and you go along with everything I want to do in my life, and you've been there by my side, and you're an awesome mother to my children. But I'm sorry, 12 hours after you left, I fucked another woman.
Yeah, and it turns out she's crazy, and she's going to break in.
Pregnant.
Yeah, and pregnant, and broke into the house and killed our child's bunny, and now our child is super sad. It's awful. It's awful.
It's terrible. It's terrible. And that's where the movie kind of really falls off the rails.
Yes. Because before that, it's like, actually, it's a pretty interesting, like, psychological thriller. And then at a certain point, it just kind of goes off this cliff. Also, he does say to her when he's confessing, I wrote this down, he wrote, it was just one night. It didn't mean anything. And I'm always fascinated when people say that in movies. The idea of, I ruined our relationship for nothing.
It didn't mean anything. Like, that's not a problem.
Yeah, it didn't mean anything.
Actually worse.
Yeah.
Like, I don't trust you more because you didn't give a shit about the person that you were sleeping with. Like, it's actually, that's a bigger problem we're talking about.
Yeah, it's even worse. It's like, I think so nothing of our relationship that I'll fucking ruin it for nothing, basically, is what that says to me. And I think it's fascinating. That's when you can tell that, like, dudes wrote the script.
It's all dudes everywhere.
Women would not think that that's a quote unquote nothing. Like, it's not a compliment. It's not even a good defense. Like, it's just, that's what dudes think women want to hear. And it's like, no, we kind of want the opposite. Actually, we want you to not cheat. But if you're going to cheat, the idea that you do it for no reason at all, not good enough.
No, if you say, we were having some problems, things were hard between us, and this person was really nice to me, and I don't know what to tell you. For a second, I thought I was in love with her. I thought, like, I don't know, like, that's something else entirely. Because then that's you can discuss from there. Where were we at that time? What were we going through? That kind of thing. Yeah. When you think everything is great and you're doing everything you're supposed to do, and that person just stoops another woman without a condom in the 80s.
Yeah. No.
When AIDS was rampant.
He's the villain of this movie.
He is the villain. And that's his responsibility. That's the least he could have fucking done.
Yeah. At least wear a condom, dude. Come on.
At least wear a condom, because you bring that to the relationship too. oh, I'm so mad all over again.
Yeah.
And then so Glenn Close, it ends the original. Well, we'll just say how it ends.
Yeah.
Is Glenn Close? So Anne is. I'm sorry. Beth is in an car accident, winds up in the hospital, and then comes home, and she can't be home alone, so her husband has to be there too. And she's taking a shower, and then she does that thing where the steam is on the mirror and you wipe that, and then you see Glenn Close. Yeah. And Glenn Close, dressed all in white, has a knife in her hands, and she's like rubbing the knife against her thigh. I remember that freaking me out when I was in the movie theater.
Scary.
It's so scary. It is so fucking scary. And then she comes and then Michael Douglas comes into the bathroom, and he thinks he drowns Glenn Close. But of course, he never really kills her. Like, he puts her underwater for like 3 or 4 minutes, and then she shoots up out of the water and screams, ah! And that's when Beth takes a gun out and shoots her in the chest.
Yes.
And then she dies. Which,
by the way, in the theater, everyone claps.
I remember people fucking cheered.
Yeah.
Like, that's what they wanted. And I wish I could say I was a better person at the time. I just wasn't mature. I was a kid.
Yeah.
I didn't get it. So I was like, okay, that's what happens in the thriller. That's what happens in this kind of a movie. And everything's going to be okay with them. I mean, honestly, God, if you were Beth, would you be okay with this guy after that?
No.
No.
You've not only like endangered my life and our child's life, you've made me someone who has to shoot somebody. I'm pissed at you.
And I have that on my goddamn conscience.
Yeah. So yeah. I wrote down, do you think Dan and Beth are still together? No.
Hell no.
No.
No. And I think at some point, Beth starts to think about it from Alex's point of view, and thinks that woman was sick.
Yeah.
That woman needed help. That woman, thought a baby would fix her life or whatever. She was disturbed. She needed help. And I fucking shot her.
Yeah.
Because she was going to kill me otherwise. But my husband and his dick put me in this position.
For sure. Like, that's exactly what I thought too. Like,
right.
Thanks, asshole, because you couldn't keep it in your pants.
I'm a killer.
Yeah, I'm a killer now. Thanks. And if they were in Alabama, by the way, Anne Archer's character would have to go to jail for killing Glenn Close and her unborn baby.
Well, okay, so that's another thing. And it's also because this is written by a dude. So in the original story, Alex commits suicide.
Yeah. So you watched the original ending. It's on YouTube. I watched it too.
It is. And I like this ending. But it does raise some other questions. Like, Beth is also killing her baby, as long as killing herself. But she frames Michael Douglas. And so Michael Douglas is being handcuffed and taken away from his house. And he says to his wife, listen to the tapes.
Yeah.
And it's that tape I was talking about before. Beth listens to the tapes, and she's like, oh, this woman is a killer, and she's planning all this. And so at the very last scene is actually Beth is going to run to the police.
With the tape, yeah.
With the tape, and get her husband exonerated, you think. They're still not together afterwards. Beth is fucking done.
Yeah, she's like, fuck you.
She's like, I'm smoking hot Anne Archer, and
she's
have half your money. Yeah, I'm going to be gone.
She's going to remarry in like a second.
In a second. She'll meet someone really sweet and appreciative of her and out of there. But that's how it originally ended. And I wonder, would people have really been, but they said the test audiences hated it.
Yeah.
And
they wanted, like, she had
vengeance.
To die, right? They wanted vengeance. And I'm like, vengeance for what?
Because we're supposed to think Alex is the villain. I don't think she's the villain. I think she's a very disturbed human being and lured somebody into a trap, but he fell into the trap very easily too.
Right.
And if he had just opened up to his wife in the beginning, a lot of shit would have been taken care of.
That's the thing. So we keep reading about the ending and how, well, the audience wanted she had to die and they wanted this vengeance. And I just kept going back to vengeance for what? Vengeance for what? For ruining his marriage? He ruined his marriage. For killing the bunny? Is that worth dying for? Like, does she have to die because she killed that rabbit? Like,
well, it means she's sick.
Yeah, she's fucked up. She's sick.
She's
like
she's sick. She needs help.
she doesn't
That's
deserve
clearly.
Yeah, she doesn't deserve to die until she shows up and tries to murder Beth, which is the ending they tacked on to this movie. So anything before that, I was like, she doesn't deserve this.
Right.
It's yeah.
It's really messed up, but it was very, very successful for the time. And then there's the whole thing about this saved so many marriages because so many men, like, of course, it stopped cheating. Did you not know that, Sonia, by the way? Nobody cheats anymore because of this movie.
It's super, yep, nope. Everything's cured. All marriages last forever now. Thank you, Fatal Attraction.
It's absurd. But it was nominated for 6 Oscars, and it was Best Picture. That's the one that got to me.
Yeah.
Really? Best Director. It's well directed, I have to
Sure.
say. It's beautiful to look at. Best Actress, sure.
Yeah, Glenn Close is awesome.
Oh, she's amazing. Supporting Actress, absolutely. Ann Archer is great. Screenplay, and film editing.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, film editing kind of always goes with Best Picture, so sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just not the kind. Could you imagine though? Let's say one of these remakes that I talked about at the beginning. Let's say Swim Fan. How come Swim Fan wasn't nominated for Best Picture? Like the idea that these movies would be nominated for an Oscar is kind of fascinating to me. But
it was the first. It was the first in for all of them, like Single White Female that we were talking about, and Unfaithful, like some other ones that talked about that.
Really, watching the original ending is hard. Like, it's disturbing to watch for sure. But watching it, I was like, that's a better ending.
It is.
Like, it's more appropriate. It ties to the, like, Madame Butterfly theme that they've got going, like, throughout the movie. It makes more sense. It makes it more obvious, like, this woman's really disturbed. Like, it's the better ending.
Right.
But I understand. It's also not, it's a fucking bummer. Like, can you imagine? It's like she slits her own throat and it's like the end and like the music starts and
it's just Ann Archer running out, basically.
Well,
like,
then
I got a cassette tape in my hand, and that's what you have to feel like, oh, great, he's going to be exonerated. Maybe eventually.
Right.
You know?
After the trial.
Yes, exactly.
But fuck him. He could go to jail. He could go to jail. It's fine with me.
Yeah,
I don't
totally.
really care.
But it's not as visceral as it was in the theater to watch Glenn Close be drowned and then shot.
Right.
Like she hadn't been through enough. Right.
People aren't going to throw their, do the fist pumps, in the air. Like, yeah, she slit her own throat. Woo!
Right.
It's not that kind of reaction. Yeah!
No.
She's a psychopath. Woohoo! Or whatever. She's not a psychopath, but she's disturbed. Yeah, she's deeply disturbed. Woo!
I'll admit I was so bad when I first saw this movie. I didn't believe she was pregnant. I thought that was a lie.
I also wondered that, actually, and I wondered it again in the rewatch, like if she is really pregnant or not.
Because why does she commit suicide if this is her last chance? I don't know.
I mean, she's really messed up, so maybe that would be a thing.
Maybe.
But it was something where, again, I wondered, like, is she really pregnant? Even during this rewatch, because I think back in the day, I just assumed she was lying.
I would assume that, and I would just think, like, why would you take all those chances if you're pregnant at 36, and which is considered old at the time? Why would you put yourself in these situations? But she's mentally unstable, so I don't know. I think there's some lingering questions.
Yeah, for sure. Did you see that apparently a TV version was in the works?
No, I saw that there was a play in London a few years ago, and the original writer did not like that ending either, and so he wrote a play that had the original ending that he intended, but it wasn't reviewed very well. It was in London. Yeah.
I just I couldn't help but wonder what the TV version would be like. I was like, is this a limited series, or is he going to cheat every week? with someone different and she goes crazy. Is it a comedy? I won't be ignored, Dan. And it's like, oh. Like,
it had those great lines though. Like it was a part of the culture.
Mm-hmm. It was, for sure.
Yeah.
And everyone's good in it. Like, that's the thing. Like, Glenn Close is super great in it. Ann Archer's super great. I mean, Michael Douglas is good in it. He plays a real dick. I mean, he kind of did this again with, like, he did, like, Disclosure, and he did, well, I guess Basic Instinct. Like, they're all kind of the same part, aren't they?
Oh, totally. And we'll probably talk about them someday.
Yeah. I feel like Disclosure just definitely needs to go on the list.
Is that the one with Demi Moore?
Yes.
We have to talk about that because that book is batshit and that movie is batshit.
I have never read the book, but
it's terrible.
I remember seeing the movie and being very confused about what I was seeing. So that would be a fun rewatch.
I think that'd be hilarious. I just think it'd be hilarious.
Do you want to hear about some of the other movies of 1987?
Sure.
Okay, so we have actually covered 87 before. By the way, this movie, it's the anti-baby boom, now that I think about it.
Oh, it is, totally.
So last week we did Baby Boom, also 87, so I tried to pick out some different movies for us. So 1987, we have Mannequin.
Oh, yes.
That should go on the list.
Yes.
Over the Top, which is Sylvester Stallone's arm wrestling movie.
Yes.
Angel Heart.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen that one since the theater. Raising Arizona. Come on.
One of the best movies ever.
Yeah, great one. Evil Dead 2.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one.
I have a feeling this one might go on our list someday. Dragnet.
We absolutely have to run that. We have to do that one day.
Thank God it's Friday. Steve Martin's Roxanne.
That's a wonderful movie.
I love Roxanne.
Roxanne's
I love that
great.
one. And Daryl Hannah's so cute in it.
Oh,
she's
that's
adorable.
the best
Everybody
part.
drink. Spaceballs.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
Makes me laugh really hard. Less Than Zero.
Oh, of course.
And Flowers in the Attic.
I saw that in the theater too. Christy Swanson.
I totally saw that one in the theater. I think
We
I read
covered
the
Buffy
book.
the Vampire Slayer. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course you read the book.
Yeah.
Everyone read those books.
Everybody read the V.C. Andrews books.
They were sick, but they were
Oh
awesome.
my God, those books are messed up.
Twisted.
Oh, so messed up.
So, do you want to hear about some songs?
Yes, I do.
All right. So I'm going to go around that time. This was released in September of 87. So I'm going to kind of start in August, but these are the number one songs. Shakedown by Bob Seger.
I love that song. I love
good.
it.
I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For. You too.
That's a good one.
Who's That Girl? Madonna.
From the movie that we should put on the list.
We should. La Bamba, Los Lobos.
That was a good one.
That was good.
And I was just going to say, listen to every Spanish class from 87 and on plays La Bamba, and everybody sings it.
I Just Can't Stop Loving You, Michael Jackson, with Sade Garrett. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say her name. Here I Go Again, Whitesnake.
Yeah, Whitesnake.
And Didn't We Almost Have It All by Whitney Houston.
Oh, Whitney.
Yep.
Oh,
Poor
Whitney.
Oh, poor thing.
There's a documentary out about her, but I haven't brought myself to watch it yet.
I can't do it. I simply can't. I just can't.
A friend of mine watched it. She said it's really good. And I'm like, I know. I don't know if I can bring myself to do it. I am gonna watch it. But I don't know when. I guess when I'm ready to cry.
Yeah, exactly. When you're ready to be depressed about things.
Mm-hmm. Funny story about Shakedown. Totally unrelated to anything, really. I was in Las Vegas. This was like 2 years ago. And I was walking down the strip somewhere. It's like during the day. I was waiting for my husband to get out of his like trade show or whatever it was he was at. And some bar was playing Shakedown. And I was like, it totally worked on me. I was like, oh, I guess I have to go in here now and have a drink. Like, only because they were playing Bob Seger's Shakedown. It was the only reason I went in.
Is that Beverly Hills Cop 2?
It is.
Yeah.
So there I am at like 2:00 in the afternoon, like in some bar in Vegas or whatever, drinking a beer. And I'm like, they're playing Shakedown. It can't be all bad.
Vegas is not the place at your higher self. I mean, Vegas is
No.
that place that attracts your like deep dark level. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like
It really does.
Yeah, it does.
What else are you dorking out about?
I am dorking out about a couple of things. There's a movie out, there's a documentary, and it's Apollo 11, and it's all about the moon landing, if you believe that really happened. I think moon's conspiracy people are just the dumbest and whatever.
Oh my
Come at
God,
me. I don't care.
So fascinating. People, I haven't
You're
watched the
such
doc.
losers.
Have you watched Behind the Curve
No.
yet? It's about the people who are flat earthers. I haven't watched it yet either. My husband watched it though and said it's really good, so I need to watch it.
I
But
just
anyway.
all those the conspiracy theory people always just drive me crazy.
For sure, same.
Apollo 11, which is really interesting. It's just they refurbished all this documentary, this footage from the time the man first landed on the moon. And I didn't realize it was the same time that Ted Kennedy, drove his car off that bridge in Chappaquiddick.
I didn't
And they
know
were talking
that.
about it it happened at the same time. So they were talking about it in space. Like they're like, "Hey, you're on the moon yet?" "Yeah." "What's going on with Kennedy?" "Oh yeah, he's in the blah 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 blah." I'm like, "Holy shit." There's a show on Amazon with Phoebe Waller-Bridge. It's called Fleabag.
Oh, I've heard such good things and I haven't started it yet.
It's the second season's out now. There's I think 12 altogether. They're half hour apiece. She is so brilliant and funny, and it's a British comedy about this single woman whose life is kind of a mess. And she breaks the fourth wall. She's constantly talking to the camera, and she does it brilliantly. And it's just, I went through it in one afternoon, the second season. It's just so freaking good. So that's what I'm dorking out about. And I'm also dorking out about us.
That's funny. That was going to be my dorking out too.
Well, in case you guys didn't know, we have a show. We started another show.
And you can't get enough of us because we can't get enough of us, apparently. Margo and I are talking about creeps every week, and we have another podcast called What a Creep. And that's the thing I was also dorking out about. That's what I was going to throw out there. You can find us at on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. And we're just talking about people who practice bad behavior.
Yeah. We pick out a creep every episode. We talk about the creep. And then at the very end of the show, we say who's not a creep this week. So we ended on a really sweet note. But so far, we've covered, as the time of this recording, we've covered Lance Armstrong, who just came out yesterday in another interview.
Oh, my God.
Saying he would do it all over again if he had to because he's such a fucking creep.
Thanks for the extra publicity, Lance Armstrong.
Yes. Thanks, Lance. Newt Gingrich.
Mm-hmm. He's the biggest creep.
Ugh. And then Elizabeth Holmes, the Theranos person. We just covered that, and we have some great people coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, once again, you guys follow us on all the social media at What a Creep, and on Twitter, it's at CreepPod. But wherever you get your podcast, please, if you listen to this show, you'll like this other show we do. It's really fun, and we crack each other up when we're doing it. So it's not a bummer.
Yeah, it's not a bummer at all. I was just going to say that. It's really fun. I know it doesn't sound like maybe it's fun, but it is really fun. So you should definitely listen. And by the way, while you're listening to this one, if you could give us good reviews, that would be awesome. On Apple.
We'd love to, on Apple, for either show. Yeah, if you guys listen through Apple iTunes for What a Creep or the Dorking Out Show, you leave us a 5-star review and a few stars, that would be amazing. We would really love that. And we love doing the show, and both shows. And it's just been really fun.
Yeah. And those reviews really help us. They help people find the show on those platforms. So that's super awesome. And you can find us on Apple Podcasts. You can find us at dorkingout.com and on Twitter and Facebook at Dorking Out Show. Where can people find you, Margo?
All of my social media is at Brooklyn Fitchick, and that's for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and my blog is brooklynfitchick.com.
Awesome. And you can find me at The Sonia Show and thesoniashow.com. And I am so glad that we talked about Fatal Attraction. This one has been on my list for a long time.
I am so happy to talk about it all these years later. It's very cathartic.
It really is. I wish I had something really clever to say, but
I know. I don't know. I will not be ignored, Sonia. You've already said that.